we do have a quorum. Steve,
There she is.
yeah, there you are. Hey, Deb.
Sorry about that. Just in time. Colorado and then Seattle, and it's hard to imagine that it's morning.
The red eyes.
Did you just get back?
No, I've been back for a couple days.
You got a hangover on it,
I
huh?
haven't been able to get up any of the morning.
Well, I just feel like, we have enough time adjusting to a 1 hour time change.
Yeah.
Twice a year, that when you travel and have multiple time zone differences.
And people, so I know who's.
Sure, we're gonna go through introductions now that we've got a full house. Hey, so I'll start. My name's Rick Meinking, and I've been on the committee for several years now, and we try to do our due diligence for the town, and it's always been a highlight of my week when I get to come to a sustainability meeting. You wanna go?
Oh, that's a pretty, okay,
Hi, Bill.
Do you remember
who you
are?
I do. We're clearly not always formal people. I'm Deb McDonough. I've been on the committee since there was a committee, except for the times when I forgot to do my paperwork when it still came to me.
But you still
Yeah, so we've been working for several years to sort of shift the culture as to when and how we think about energy and sustainability and town decisions. I don't know, we've had a couple of projects that we're proud of and some that we're continuing to struggle with, because that's the way it is when you're making changes. So,
I'm Jamie Fitch, the sustainability coordinator for the town, and I warned you that this is an informal group, so you're seeing firsthand, so welcome. And I'm just gonna say, this is Patrice Castenholt, she's our newest appointee, and I'll let you introduce yourself when you get there.
I'm April Seither. I'm the town council liaison to the committee. This is my second year as the liaison for this committee. And so I'm a non-voting member, but I work between the council and the committee.
My name is Patrice Kassenholz, and I am a homeowner in Scarborough, but not yet a resident. I still have 1 foot in Massachusetts, but we are currently getting older. The rest of you aren't, I can tell, and we are planning on transitioning full-time up here. I have been, I love Maine and I love Scarborough. I moved here from Falmouth, and I have an off-the-grid camp on Buston's Island, which is a little island out in Casco Bay. And I'm passionate about the environment and sustainability and all kinds of things. I drive a plug-in car, looking.
Hybrid or full electric?
Yeah, it's not a full, it's a Prius plug-in.
Okay.
So, for little bits, around, we get about 12 miles of free, essentially. Anyway, it's all good, and I'm super excited to be part of the group.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Ron Allen. I am just a member of the committee.
oh,
Just a member.
You've been on it for several years
I've
too.
been here several years. Yeah.
I'm Lydia Joff. I'm a new member since May, so. Learning with you now.
Officially no
I'm-
longer.
You're old.
Yeah,
Never know.
yeah.
I'm Autumn Spear, I'm the planning director for the town.
David Kirstein, another committee member for some years, but not as long as some other.
And we're missing Anton, but you'll find out he's got a personality too. It's one of a kind. But welcome. We are kind of
and just as he's not here for introductions, he has a background in finance.
finance.
And so brings a really critical perspective to.
Is he still attached with Penn State? If he's doing anything with them, do you know?
I don't actually.
I don't know either.
Oh, I should mention then that I'm a semi-retired nurse practitioner, and I have served on quite a few boards down in Massachusetts, including chairman of the board of I was, because nobody else wanted to do it, chairman of the Board of Health in our town that did not have public water or sewerage. So principally what the Board of Health did was septic systems and wells and things like that. So I'm very concerned about groundwater and have a fair amount of knowledge about the design of those things.
The amount of people in Scarborough are wells and septic, me being one of them. So, yeah, well, welcome. So that brings us to the minutes from the last meeting that Jamie had sent a couple of times. Entertain a motion. We have, and a second. Since we're all here and nothing virtual, we can just do a raise of hand. All in favor? Those are ready for the record.
Sorry, I missed the second as I was writing.
Oh.
Thanks, Steve.
Oh, sorry. Changes to the agenda. I don't think there's any changes, just maybe an addition based on some news that you might want to share with the committee regarding residential rate
Sure.
designs.
As of this year, CMP introduced 2 residential rate classes that are opt-in. And I was just wondering if this was something that we should share with residents, just in terms of education ahead of next winter too, especially.
For folks on heat pumps.
Well, one of them is an electric technology rate, which is sort of a generic all encompassing, and you do not need to have any heat pumps or EV chargers to qualify. And then the other one is a seasonal heat pump rate, which you do need a heat pump. And CMP provides like a calculator basically where you can put in your usage and decide if it makes sense for you to enroll in it. So I mean, I happen to cross upon them because of my job, but you know, they might be something that we could let people know about. Yeah.
One of which was the one that I brought up earlier about, and it was the first one that she talked about, which is if you use a lot of electricity because your whole house, you know, heat pumps and whatever else, then that one becomes viable. Right.
Yeah, it was like 800 kilowatt hours. So.
Yeah, a minute. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, there's all the IRA stuff coming that can support, i.e. tax credits for increasing service entries into homes to support the electrification of homes. One of the thoughts that just came to my mind based on that is there a chance we could do a 1-pager or something and have it available at our sustainability day?
I was thinking.
And, you know, then this could be something we could replicate in a news article.
Yeah.
So maybe we can just, you know, a high point and see where that takes off.
Sure, because I mean, there wouldn't be anything besides us
Pointing
informing
people.
people.
Yeah.
Right,
Then you
right.
have to then go.
Then it's their choice, yeah,
Yeah.
in their decision,
You go to CMP.
yeah. And if we produce something, we could throw it on our
Sure.
website as,
Yeah.
you know.
CMP might already have something produced for it. Yeah.
And I bet we have a connection for that too,
we do.
with Jay.
Yeah.
So, do you want to reach out to Jay
Yeah,
or,
I
okay,
will. And speaking of Sustainable Scarborough Day, does this group want to have a table there with
I
information?
think we should.
Yeah, I think you should too.
You should have two.
Hey,
Hey,
A lot of information.
So, we'll.
the old man at what time frame?
Yeah, exactly.
Mill around.
We can talk more about that when we get to Sustainable Scarborough Day.
I just didn't want to, I just wanted to get that real
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
because I knew, and I think it's a great idea.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
yeah, you really are needing to stumble across that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
they're not doing a lot of advertising on it.
Well, they want as much money as they can get.
Well, wait till
Yeah,
the
exactly.
stakeholder group for the electrification law that just got passed.
And is Jay at CMP?
So
connections?
Jay was our former planning director and he left here to go to CMP.
Okay.
And he's working primarily with like large accounts, municipalities and commercial businesses to kind of navigate things with them.
Simply because the seasonal heat rate pump, that is limited to the first 5K enrollments, so I don't know if. it's worth asking if they're close.
Okay.
Before we start to share.
Oh, that did have a cap on
Yeah,
it, didn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
well, there'll be times of you, there'll be some things coming down the pike based on this
Certainly. Yeah,
legislative bill
yeah.
that
I don't think
that
we have a
happened.
choice.
Yeah, it will. And we'll have to keep watching that because that's good information. for
Was there a
residents.
cap on the,
Not on the electric
yeah,
technology, yeah. I think that just is. That one, you should just run the calculator and see if it
Makes
yeah,
sense.
makes
Yeah.
sense for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So another item related to this also, speaking of Jay, he did reach out to Tom earlier this month to let him know that the town's electric rates are actually going up again, along with everyone else's, but it's going to be fairly significant. I will forward the email to you all so you can kind of see the background information and what was provided to us. But it does seem to lend some strength to our argument that the town needs to be looking at alternative options for electricity and looking at generating our own and as much as possible.
And we occasionally talk about that. Yeah, police field.
Yeah.
We haven't ever.
We haven't, and I feel like now's the time to really start
Yeah.
digging into that.
Mhm.
Because the waiting was so long,
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially for connections.
well, fortunately for the school bill, that's coming off that landfill solar.
Yeah,
You get
the-
credit for that.
The Kimberly Clark,
Yeah,
yeah, so
right.
they are getting the credits for
Yeah.
that.
Where is the capped off landfill?
So we have a property off of, right near Pleasant Hill Road, off of there. It's in our industrial zone. And it's really not, it's a prime position for, a solar array. And it's really land that we can't really do anything else with, so it's prime for solar. And so it's time to kind of make the investment in that, and maybe that is something that we think about for our capital improvement project that we talked about last meeting and for preparing for next budget season. When we get our
I'm not
proposal
sure
for that.
what the options might be on that.
Yeah, but that's all.
What tax appetite and how that's what these days. I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, so I think the first step would be, for a capital improvement plan would probably be the planning and design for that. As a first phase, and a second phase would be to get the funding to actually build it. Or, if we can enter into a power purchase agreement, maybe we would
Which is the only way to act with the tax credit.
Exactly, although there are opportunities now for municipalities outside of, through the Inflation Reduction Act. There are opportunities for municipalities to take advantage of not necessarily tax credits, but rebates. Because we're not eligible for tax credits.
I didn't realize this.
I just wonder if that's a grant opportunity to do the feasibility study and the design of that.
Yeah, for do
If we get a
a
resilient grant
resiliency grant to.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea too.
Well, we got a little off topic, but
It's all related.
it's all good stuff.
Put that on the list.
Yep.
of topics.
Well, we'll talk about that because that's the second, but I think we should move to old business and take a look at the lighting standards again for the last time. So that
Yay.
Autumn can go become a resident expert on
Yeah, I brought my,
something
I
other.
brought my books, right? So I know you guys got the second version of the draft last month, and then, we'll go through it. There's just a few things I want to get some clarification on, and then hopefully, if you have any comments or anything about it, we can add them too. I know, I'm gonna also send this, if you don't mind, I'm gonna send it to James Hebert, because he does the same thing for a living, so I'm gonna have him do
Yep.
once over. Rick and James are both on planning board, and they both make sure we have lighting requirements every site plan that goes through, so. Once this is approved, Rick and James won't have anything else to do, and now.
You know, I'll focus on something else,
Some more
building
things.
design
I'm gonna
standards.
find some more things for her to do.
Oh, yeah.
So exciting.
Never on an empty tank, never an empty tank.
Exactly. So Jamie's got them up on, and I don't know if you just want to go through, I think purpose, applicability, general standards were all sort of, standard stuff. The lighting plan, I reordered it just a bit. The real thing I needed some input on, when you get to lighting levels,
And then permitted lighting. So, and I'll be the first to admit, I read this, I don't understand all of the IAS, there's so many different ways you can light and so many different calculations based on your suburban or your urban setting and then what standards. So I added in a basic overarching and put it back on the designer. So for lighting levels, that illumination level shall not exceed the current recommended minimums by the IAS except as outlined below. And this is something that we had in our existing ordinance, the bullet point. So really put it back on them. And then as part of the lighting plan, they actually have to state what standards they're
That's, I
following.
love that.
And so you stated it, I can go check it. Are
Right.
you good? We're good. So
I
Eric
love
and I
it.
don't have to become lighting experts to read their lighting plan, but we put it on them. Oftentimes we get site plans, they just give us just enough to, is it right? So that's why I just went that way.
That'll help the planning board whenever there's somebody that knows lighting.
Sure,
Or
sure. because
anything,
that's a-
because that's very,
that's a niche
yep, yep.
knowledge
And it
base.
helps staff. You tell me what you're using, I'll go verify.
And I think that was,
Simple.
I've spent more time trying to figure that part out and I just really simplified it. Yeah, so that's where I got to on that one. So if you're in agreement with that.
I love it.
That
So
works.
why are we not recommending LED in the first phase?
Yeah, but
Yeah. That was my question. Why?
So when we say compact fluorescent or hyperhistodium was.
Oh, you're
required
moved
for the
on.
last- That was on permitted lighting.
Yeah.
Well, okay, all right.
can we go back up just
Okay,
a
I'm
second?
sorry. I thought that's what that section was.
This is not anything, this is not a. It's a silly question. What evidence, where could a person go and see poor lighting that illustrates the need to do this? And are we addressing a problem that people are really aware of, which I would hope?
Mhm.
Or the numbers don't mean anything to me, but I support having the
Sure.
standard and the requirements. I just don't know what we're addressing.
Well, I think you're addressing dark sky requirements and, glare onto adjacent neighborhoods.
Okay.
And so that's what we're really trying to prevent, full cutoff, so you don't get that crossover of light between lot lines. And also so that at night, the parking lots that are empty are not lit up like ball fields. So I mean, that's really, it's a nationwide sort of movement for dark sky and to reduce glare,
Well, that's great. And
but
a lot of the subdivisions have old enough lighting that they're not
sure.
dark sky. And so this only addresses to going forward.
This is
This
new.
isn't for this is for moving forward and primarily for commercial.
Okay,
So it's not for a single family residential.
Well, that all
Your
helps.
personal.
thank you for that.
If a condo development is not in compliance and they are redoing their whole thing.
They have
Then they have
to
to bring it
comply.
into
So
compliance.
applicability on the first page, so all outdoor lighting installed after the date of this shall comply with these. So it's includes new lighting, replacement lighting, or any other lighting whether attached. So like an existing condo complex would actually have to come in with an amended site plan and show a lighting plan. And then we take that through the planning board. Sometimes we can approve them administratively. My hopes is once we have very specific standards, we can approve them administratively. But yeah, they would have to comply. So you
But
can't,
individual homeowners don't.
right, right. So site plan standards, this is part of our site plan standards, and our site plan standards have applicability. It's like a piece of a book, and the book applies to new commercial, which also includes multifamily. And then subdivisions. So the overall subdivision would have to comply with their new street lights and things like that they put in, or if they put in lights on open space areas, but the individual homes aren't required. Encouraged.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, yeah, the lighting levels is kind of just simplified. The permitted lighting, I just added some language from some other places. So these are, I have no vested interest in these, so I just need help with this. I found that this yellow was in some of the dark sky language. I found a lot of different language. I went to, the Dark Sky, went to IAS, I went to some other towns. Flagstaff, Arizona was like the first dark sky community in the country, with their ordinances. So just wanted to get some input on this permitted lighting part. So we have that they're all classified as dark sky compliant, full cutoff, so that'll show up on cut sheets, but then, this language was actually from, the second compact fluorescent was from, dark sky guidelines. So I just want to make sure what we changed.
Do we know the date of those guidelines?
2020. Yeah, so that's why I just, me not being a expert, I just wanted to put what we want. It's fine, we can change them to whatever. I know we talked about last time doing LED or like most current technology or anything like that, and that's fine too, if we want to keep that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious why compact
Me too.
fluorescent was the recommended.
Yeah, but what is it? Isn't there a
Being phased
policy
out.
that they're being phased out? Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, let's just. So we wanted to do, we talked about last time requiring, is there a more generic way to say it? I guess it's kind of almost my point too, the technology is there, if it changes next year,
Right.
we don't have to come amend the ordinance.
Well, that was the or best
So
possible.
we'll just
We have
say-
language, where's that go?
We'll keep it,
We'll pull up our minutes from. 'Cause I
yeah,
think it
we
was-
still have the old
Yeah,
version,
the LED
or
or highest efficiency technology or.
available, okay. That's fine.
I get the impression that the second yellow paragraph there has its origin in the objections that people raise to the color of LEDs.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's really not an
And
issue anymore, so.
Okay.
Cause
So we'll strike those and then we'll just do LED or highest efficiency. That works great. And then the warmer lighting colors to be used to extent possible, the maximum temperature of 3,000 Kelvin. That's still good.
Yeah, I think that gets at the temperature.
Okay.
the-
Yeah.
Perfect. And then I added the section time limits, and so we, this first paragraph, all outdoor lighting located more than 30 feet from any building or outdoor product display should be turned off no later than 30 minutes after the business closes. And then I did keep the, I know we kind of talked about holiday lights last time, but I did add this back in, that holiday lights are exempt.
The one comment I had there was to maybe add either temporary or seasonal to decorative holiday lights so that
Okay,
we don't get the situation like Mercedes up the road where they're
They
just
just
there
light
lighting
them all the
all
time.
the time. Unless it's part of their lighting plan and it's been. approved.
right.
I don't,
And that would be something that we would enforce by complaint, but right, I'm
Right.
not driving around at night looking for Christmas lights. Yeah.
is security lighting not included in the outdoor lighting located more than 30 feet? Well,
That's the question, like, is 30 feet enough? You can still have your security lighting on your building. So this is saying you can have everything around your building for 30 feet, and then after that, you have to turn it off. Is that far enough, do you think? Maybe there's,
I didn't understand the comparison.
And that
It
lets car
could
dealers leave the lights
be-
on the whole lot. Cause that's what the product is, right?
yes, from any outdoor product display or storage area. That's how that's written.
Is there anything about turning them down?
We asked for that in the lighting plan.
Yeah, the lighting plan has on the first, let's see, it's on the second.
So make sure it's consistent.
So there's, and it requires the types of timing devices used to control the hours set for illumination and the proposed hours when each fixture will be operated. I will say that car lots, we are contract zone use only, so we won't get any new ones. So
Well,
I won't say that, we won't get any new ones without some parameters, right, to have to maybe talk about this, so we can. probably come up with something else to add. But
I
we
mean-
would have another opportunity to visit it, I guess, individually.
Right, but I'm just talking about the product display, like
Sure.
in that direction, but the product display in general, it. Doesn't need to be at whatever their full lighting would have been. At 2 a.m. And I'm not sure where those lines are,
Right, right,
but I know they don't need to have it like
100%.
ready to sell stuff.
Sure,
at 2 in the
sure,
morning.
it doesn't need to be.
So what they would use at 6 when it's dark already, because we live in Maine. Because they're open,
Right,
should be different at. When they close.
I think if you don't mind, this might be a good one to get input from James on, do you think, Rick? Because he
Yeah,
mentions this a lot about the percentage. To have it the lights turned off and dimmed.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
is there a
that's-
standard that we could
Oh,
adhere to on
Yeah,
that? You know, like a parking lot after hours, do you cut it back based on lumens? Do you cut it back? You know, to a % of what the capacity of the bulb is or the
right,
LED, I don't
feel
know.
like I've heard him say 50% is
Yeah.
recommended, but I would like to double check, I think I can get a.
Let's check with
If we can get a better,
But I would like to see,
Sure, that's a great point.
yeah.
And then we have, the fixture height and placement.
yeah,
So we've got, um,
Not to be too annoyingly picky, what, when it says. Shall not exceed 25 feet. Above what? From what?
I think it's ground level,
from the
right?
ground, yeah.
I think it would be helpful to.
All loopholes must be closed.
Because I could see somebody building a,
Sure, sure.
you know, so that it's 50 feet high.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
I'll definitely add that. I'm a big fan of finding loopholes, so help me. So we've got facade mounted lights adjacent to driveway shall not exceed 25 feet, so that would be 25 feet from the ground on the building. So that's as high, and they are full cutoff. And then sidewalks, it's 12 to 16.
Should that be on the sidewalk? Should 12 to 16 feet above the sidewalk?
I'm gonna add from the ground level.
From the ground level. Cause that would
With an
be,
Elevated sidewalk.
Yeah,
well, you're up a curb, that's, yeah,
Still
but you're at
should
ground
be around,
level.
I think.
I just,
Yeah.
I think ground level is
that's fine. I just.
looking at it from a developer's eye.
Trying not to be annoyingly picky.
Sure.
But not succeeding.
I think you did good. I'm gonna add it. Let's see, so the reduced to 12 to 16 feet, that was some language that was in there before. And I'm not sure why there's the variation, maybe.
Do we have to
because
say
now-
be reduced to? Because why don't we just say it shall be
15, 16.
12 to 16?
Shall not exceed.
Shall not exceed 12 to 16.
Shall not exceed 16, because that's the
I
cap.
was gonna say, if we're.
It's just the cap.
Is the
Um,
cap.
It's a minimum of 12, shall not to exceed 16.
Yeah.
Cause is the 12 important?
I was gonna say.
It might be,
Maybe
because you don't want to
for
have a
Kill
6-foot
anybody
light
on
that,
your head,
yeah.
right? So-
Can you just ask what's it about that?
oh, James,
Sure. Like if there's a.
I
I
don't know
know, I
these
think
guys.
this is pretty standard.
I think this is more about like a fixture. And right, not hitting your head when you're passing through it, just, and not getting light right on top of you, so there's gotta be some, yes.
Or somebody
Um,
stealing the
And
lenses,
then,
whatever.
so indirect landscape lighting, uplighting and washes may be used, that's from the existing standards. And then high branch mounted floodlights aimed toward the ground and prohibited, that's existing. The bollard fixtures, full cutoff are permitted up to 4 feet, we limited that one to 4. And then ornamental fixtures are permitted up to 12 feet in height, and again, all these are gonna be from the ground level. And then parking area shall have a maximum pole height of 20 feet.
Can we talk about uplighting?
Sure.
Like how much uplighting and washes and like, why are we? And I like it visually, but
Well, I was gonna ask if there should be a maximum kind of wattage or Kelvin or just so that it's not I mean,
And
it
that
does say in
has-
here, we can't have like searchlights and spotlights. around the
Right.
sky. Not that they would do that, but
They want, that's the thing. It might, Cause, I mean, in terms of dark sky, that's a problem.
Now, this landscape lighting has to be turned off when the business is closed.
Okay,
So that there is a provision up above,
Yeah.
the second, so all the landscape lighting has to be turned off.
Which would include that.
do we need to
Which
define
is-
landscape lighting? Do we need some definitions in here?
where's the landscape lighting come up?
Is that only for commercial?
I'd like to actually get
Yes.
some, include some images of some different lighting and everything, so it's easier to understand, but definitions are good too.
And bollards aren't considered landscape lighting.
Right,
They're kind of a safety thing, but they're capped anyway, so.
Yeah, it did say, I don't remember where it said, but it did say that landscape lighting. Oh, it was the,
just above. It's on page 3 at the top,
okay,
sorry.
Yeah.
The second.
all landscape lighting must be turned off. to the businesses closed.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah, I think that addresses that.
Okay.
I don't want to handcuff, you can't handcuff them. They want to make their business look pretty.
But they have
It
to
is,
turn it off.
but turn it off when you're close.
All right, I can look at that.
And then for outdoor recreation facilities, we talked about that. I added some borrowed language from some other locations. It basically says you can do any of the lighting that's already allowed. Then all fixtures used for event lighting, fully shielded, design, full cutoff. And then there's some event timing that was on here. And then I added the maximum height permitted is to be determined, to be determined during the site plan process that was approved by the planning board. So I added some flexibility there. What do you think about that? Thoughts?
No, those are, that's a lot of what other municipalities have seen.
Seems kind of
Yeah, similar.
timing and.
I mean, I was out umpiring at OOB and at 10:30, the lights went off
Mhm.
the field, so we were done.
Game's over.
And there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, there's a little red blinky light that you know it's about to countdown. You know that light, don't you? It's right out there on that.
And then it goes on to prohibited fixtures and lighting. So I have bare bulbs are not allowed unless permitted as temporary or decorative lighting by the planning board through the waiver process. So that would be,
Like the bistro lights.
right, that would have to be shown. And then neon tubes are not allowed.
Yeah.
Non-cutoff fixtures are not permitted, mercury vapor bulbs, outdoor flood lighting, searchlights, laser lights, all that. And then, any lighting device located on the exterior of a building or inside of a window, which is visible, like blinking, flashing. None of that. And then seasonal holiday lights are exempt from these requirements. Are we okay with that, or?
Yeah, and
I'll add the same temporary or.
we don't want to be
decorative lighting.
Scrooge.
Then we get to waivers, and so each of the site plan ordinances, so site plan waivers, Patrice, for your benefit, go through the planning board process. And as it is now, we have some pretty loose language about waivers, so as we're rewriting each of these, we're adding specifically, this is what you can ask for a waiver for. And so we have maximum pole and fixture height greater than 20 feet for large parking lots over 150 spaces. If you can reduce, and then we added last time, under no circumstances shall exceed 30 feet. And then the within 200 feet of property line, residential property lines, that's the language we have now. And then there's a waiver for non-cutoff fixtures, decorative or historic lamps may be allowed where they're designed to be lower limited number or distance. And then we have non-conforming temporary, I think I'm gonna add this, so it would be the permanent. So non-conforming lighting may be permitted by the planning board where they're, so I'll add some language about like, because this is where we're talking about string lights, right? So they have to include them on their plan if they want to use them forever.
Is this where Costco bumped up against this?
They did, so they have what, 30 foot poles?
30 foot pole.
30 foot poles. But they asked for a waiver, they could they ask for it, then, but this will help us, like, didn't they ask for higher?
Yeah, they have to,
That's
and it
for
has to
higher.
be to reduce the number of
Yeah,
fixtures.
and so this way now they can't ask for anything higher. like. And it did reduce the number of fixtures.
It
It's
did.
still gonna be really lit up, and so they would not comply with the new requirements. But
Yeah.
You learn and correct.
Yep.
Can we go back to your current wording for the holiday seasonal
Mhm.
lights? What does it say? Does it say seasonal holiday or?
Yes, so we're gonna
Temporary
exempt
season.
temporary or seasonal holiday lights, but this waiver is not gonna say temporary or decorative, it's gonna say something about string lights.
Okay.
and So it'll be two different things,
Yeah.
and then we can add definitions for that too, so it's really.
Yeah, I
clear.
wasn't sure if you dropped
Yeah.
holiday off of seasonal, and I could see people saying. Fall's a season,
Sure.
winter's a season.
Yes.
Well, we are also.
St. Patty's Day is a
Yeah,
season.
But we are becoming a more international community in town and there's, you know,
No, that's fine. I
Ramadan,
just-
you know, occurs.
Yeah, I just didn't want it to be. They're all for the
Right.
entire.
If it's a
year
commercial
because
building and
they're-
you're always gonna have string lights
Yeah.
up, just put it on your
Your
lighting
plan.
plan,
Yeah.
and we all know it, and it's fine.
But here's my question, is how would we know if somebody has it on their lighting plan or not?
Well, it's included
Like,
on the.
no, but I mean, if I'm concerned about lighting, I guess I just come and say I'm concerned about their lighting and then you guys dig in and see what they're planning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was Autumn's point, was these
Yeah.
would come back to her as complaints
Okay.
or
Yeah.
inquiries.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if someone complains or asks a question, we can look at the lighting plan. If it's on there, they're all set. And if it's not on there, then we have reason to go to them or justification to go to them and tell them that they can't have them or they need to come get approval.
Get them, and then. Kind of like we do a lot of.
Or they need to turn them off at night or whatever the issue
Yes,
might be.
yes. Actually, let's make sure that they have to be turned off. too. I'll add that too, so those. I'll add that too.
So they need to be off within 30
Yes.
minutes after close. like
Yes,
the-
yeah, like everything else, they don't get to be the. Outdoor lighting located, yeah, that's perfect, I'll add that too. So anything else? I'll make a few of the changes, I'll make all of the changes we talked about, which are a few, and then I'll send it back to Jamie just to send to you guys, just to do a quick overview over, and then I'll send it to James Hebert on planning board to give his electrical engineer eye, and then, because he does lighting plans. And then I think we'll be good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, that's that. And now we'll talk about the sustainability fund that we, folks don't need a reminder, but we had, last month, we had a conversation with some, town staff, the finance director and the, finance chair of the town council. In our current comprehensive energy plan for the town. Well, it's a sustainability. plan.
Sustainability and
It's not
energy.
just energy. There's a part of it that says the town council shall determine a percentage of the savings from projects going into some fund. Well, that never really happened, so we're trying to make something, it's teeth that we can grab, and we're trying to make that come true now, whether it's a percentage or what have you, but that's what the topic is. So what we're trying to do is submit a memo to the town council that would support. Hoping they could support adding some sort of line item or something to the town's budget that would allow us. Or maybe other committees that it would make sense to provide some sort of funding to advance projects that we want to encourage the town to do. Or it could be used to provide local residents with incentives to do something they wouldn't do otherwise. So that's the context of this conversation. You want to take it away from there?
Sure, so we were kind of charged with pulling together a memo that justifies or outline some of the projects that we've worked on and justifies why this fund is needed. So we had talked about, there's kind of three approaches for funding. One of them is, as Rick was saying, a line item in our municipal budget that gets approved annually through our budget process. So this would be preparing for our fiscal year 25 budget, which will be approved in June of 2024. And so there's the line item in the budget. Once that's approved, we would have discretion, or staff would have discretion on where kind of that funding gets spent. The other one is a capital improvement project. So that's funding again through the budgeting process, where we basically have a project that we may want to present to the town council for their consideration, and if they include it in the budget, it becomes available to us to work on that specific project over however long it takes for us to complete that project. With the budget line item, it's use it or lose it. So we'll have it available to us for a year. If it's not spent, it goes back into the general fund. We'll have to request it again through the next budgeting process. And then the third thing that we discussed was a reserve account, which essentially is often funded through fees. And the money kind of just sits there and grows until there is a need for it. And in order to access that funding, we need to request it of the town council. So basically put together a proposal to say, you know, we are applying for this grant. We need X amount of dollars to match it. Would the council grant that allocation for that grant proposal? So through all of those options, there is a level of oversight from the town council. They will either set the money that is put into the annual budget, or they will grant us the ability to access money from this fund if it's set up for specific projects. So that's kind of what we're talking about now is we had discussed kind of asking for all three or hoping for all three. So we need to lay out kind of the work that we've done in the past, what our current priorities are and how this funding may be used in the future. And we kind of talked about earlier the option for a town-owned solar array. There's lots of other options. We talked about a grant program and things like that. So now we need to kind of start digging into what we want this memo to look like, the types of information we want to include in it. And our goal is to have the memo wrapped up by the end of this calendar year. So by December, so that it can be part of the municipal budgeting process, which will start at the beginning of 2024. So first I have on the agenda our approach for the council memo. Are there any elements or things that you guys definitely want to see in there? I think Autumn and April will have some good insight or guidance for us as we pull that together. And obviously we want to talk about some of the past success stories. I think we want to highlight those, but not necessarily dwell on them, I guess, for lack of a better term, because we really want to talk about the type of work that we want to do going forward.
It might be really good to give a couple of examples of missed opportunities for lack of funding. Just a couple, just say, for instance, this grant opportunity came up, it was a $10,000 matching. Having this reserve fund would have enabled us to do this. Just a couple, so they have some context.
Yeah.
That might be a good thing.
And are we doing like one within the memo, all of this for each type of funding, or is it all?
Yeah, I think that having an example of how each type of funding would be used would be helpful. I think that this is going to be a multi-phase thing. I don't think everything is going to be part of the memo that will then end up in the budget. So like if they do say, yes, please move forward and develop, you know, a CIP for a solar array, that will be a separate effort that we'll need to go through. We'll need to pull together like an estimated budget for that and a summary of like why we're doing it, what the goals are, what our anticipated outcomes are, so that they have that information. That level would not need to go in the memo. We would need probably a pared down version of that. So yeah, as an example in the memo,
And we should be asking for a specific amount for a line item.
it would be helpful.
Well, for a line item, I mean, the kinds of things that we wish we could do, but hadn't had the money to do are communications. It would be nice to have their budget for sustainability day.
And we do have a little bit of a budget for sustainable Scarborough Day.
Right, but I don't want to tie it to specific things because just listing some of the things that we would have done if we had money.
Yeah, and so like I said, if that line item is approved, we'll have some discretion for what it's used for once it's in there, but it's helpful for the council to know kind of what the thought process is.
And so I think the biggest example of that is the compost pad.
Mhm.
That if there had been money to send even one set of cards to all those houses.
Yeah.
That would have changed the ways in which we were able to do that.
Yeah, some direct outreach for that project. Yeah, I can think of another opportunity where Efficiency Maine had their EV charging grants that we had worked on pulling together a proposal, and at the last minute, the town couldn't provide the cash match that was required to go towards that. So that's another opportunity that we missed out on because we didn't have this set funding.
And I mean, I'm not gonna be able to go, I'm not sure through the minutes, but there have been a number of other grants that were like, well, we can't move that fast.
Mhm.
And we just didn't even.
Yeah, and I think we can talk maybe in general terms about that, about how grant timing often doesn't align with municipal budget timing. So we do miss out on opportunities where there is a match requirement as part of the grant.
With an example, with a concrete example. of what they do.
So can I give a little bit of council perspective?
Absolutely.
So given the three kind of categories of funding, I would say that talking about developing a CIP falls under standard budget annual practice, right? You guys could do that as a committee any year that you
Mhm,
wanted
right.
to. And so, talking about developing the solar array, that I think is outside of this committee's like actual request, like what you actually want.
Right, because we can already. do that.
Because you can already do that. Then having a line item, I kind of feel like that's similar, like you guys could put together a request or a pitch or a proposal, whatever you want to call it. And that could be part of the budget development process for any given year. But again, like the council's gonna want to know, and the finance committee is gonna want to know, like what that specific request is for. And then they're gonna weigh the merits of whether or not they want to fund that request. I think what you guys should focus on and what you really want is that discretionary spending. Is that ability to fund an account that then you guys would have access to. And then if you needed to, and it was a provision of the account, then you would put together a little proposal or a memo and send it to the council, and the council would vote to authorize the spending of funds out of that account. And I think that is the core of kind of what you guys were aiming for in the beginning, because the other two to me just seem like standard budget,
Yeah, it'd be
procedure.
more like giving her a budget, a sustainability
And
budget.
and Jamie does as part of the planning department, as she said, like they have a small discretionary budget and she's able to spend some of that on Sustainable Scarborough Day. And it doesn't have to specifically say in the line item that that's what she's gonna allocate those funds for. But it's not a significant amount, and it certainly isn't grant matching levels or any of those kind of things to do those bigger projects that you
Mhm.
guys have had your eyes on.
And so the set aside account, whatever that was called.
Reserve account.
Reserve account. I think you said it's generated from fees,
Mhm.
but I think that what we had wanted to request was a regular town contribution to them. In response to this. Like justified by the savings, but not calculated each year by the savings. And so that's where we need to go back and do some of the math on.
So, yeah, so and from what I've So I've looked into this in the past and have gone back and looked into it again more recently about how other communities do this, because they are pulling together reserve accounts based on the savings from their efficiency projects that they've done. They don't necessarily get that money every year. They might get it every year for a set amount of time. So like during the payback period or things like that. So I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a set annual allocation, and if we can justify that. But having, you know, when we do these efficiency projects, having, you know, built into that project X amount based, and a lot of it is based on the projected savings and not the actual savings, because it's so hard to calculate actual savings, because a lot of times it's dependent on weather and, you know, usage and things like that. So, a set amount of the projected savings when you're pulling together, the project would go into this reserve account for X amount of years. And I think that that's kind of, so what we're looking to do. So we can go back and look at, you know, for our LED streetlight, for example, not necessarily looking at our actual savings, but let's look at what was projected when that was put together. Because I can't tell you how many streetlight accounts we actually have in town. Each streetlight essentially has its own CMP account. So that is a huge undertaking to go through and figure out what our actual savings
But if
from.
we were to do that just on the streetlight project and the two small solar arrays.
So, like I said, we can go back and look at, I think the solar arrays will be easier because it's just two arrays. There are two set accounts for those. That will be a little bit easier than going through many hundreds of accounts for streetlights.
And then, so those two for the sort of clawback period. And then as just policy, each time we put another proposal together, here's the projected savings. This amount should go into the reserve account in each of the end years.
Could we also designate that the EV charger in lieu fees be routed through the sustainability fund?
And that would be something, that would be the easiest first step, I think, is to just revise.
That's kind of a start to start building.
Is to revise the language in the ordinance, and I think that, like I said last meeting. There were counselors already on board with kind of opening that up and opening up the opportunities for what that fee that's collected would go towards. And not designating it just for EV chargers,
right.
but for
But for
sustainability in general.
sustainability, because that's all about greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although
Okay.
I don't think anybody's ever gonna pay it.
I hope.
it's
not.
too
I
high,
know it's high.
And- which is
terrific.
great.
It's a great fee.
which is
That's
great,
what you do.
but-
Why
You
we
get
did it.
compliance when your fee is high.
yeah.
Just why we,
But then there's some counselors that totally object to in lieu fees because the ordinance says thou shalt do this.
Right.
Why do you give them a chance to buy their way out?
we kind of don't. I mean, it's better for, if the fee is set so high that it's more affordable for them to
Yeah.
just comply, then just comply.
Right, right, but we do have the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Good reason not to, and if somebody somewhere has a good reason not to, take the thing, there's their people. Yeah, I will do that. Okay, so. Feels like the tasks are to try to pull some numbers from those two projects.
Yeah, so we want to look specifically at the LED streetlights and the solar, and I will see, those both happened before I was here, so I will see where the files live to kind of pull together the projected savings from those two projects. Or at least projected savings from LED streetlights and actual savings for the solar arrays.
From what April said and from John Lucci coming last time, it sounds like it's really not that big of a lift, this ask, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's not really, like, you could ask for $45,000 in December for sustainability initiatives, sort of like we have planning initiatives, because now you're in a different engineering services and separate. So that would be a really.
I love
easy
the
ask.
idea of funding an office, the
And then-
Office of Sustainability.
Yeah, and then that makes sense, and you can justify it, so some of these discussions maybe are not in the first memo, but they kind of roll into that justification.
Well, we also kind of have to weigh in or loop into this memo that whole idea that way back when we were an ad hoc committee, we worked to get a sustainability coordinator position. That in part came from EECGB money way back that seeded the office. And because of some of the accomplishments, it's kind of maintained that FTE position sort of thing. So I think that needs to be kind of like a background for the council to understand that, you know, this is what can happen if you do some budgeting and planning.
Yeah, kind of a timeline of how we got to where we are, and now that we're here, and the comp plan has goals, the sustainability committee has goals, and this is what we need to fund it. And I still think you can fund your reserve account with overage on electrical permits. I think that just makes sense. And
I like that.
It's it might not be the same every year, but it would be a percentage.
A little
and I
bit
thought
of
that
state
was-
money.
Yeah.
But there's a
and
kind
it
of a
would,
guarantee a
right.
little bit there because there's a growth
There's
ordinance.
growth, and it's right.
And it's regulated now, so there is that.
You're gonna have a little bit every year, and it builds. It's not, you're not gonna have $2 million the first 2 years, but it would build, so you can be.
Do you have a sense of what that overage is on
Yeah, I
average?
can get it for you.
And are you thinking like a portion of that overage would go?
Yeah, you could
Because-
ask for all of it. Of course, that would be the finance committee saying how much you get. Because that's what John was talking about, like the EMS, EMT visits.
Yeah.
There's a certain percentage of that overage goes back into reserve, and that seems
I
like such a
think-
great idea.
Right, and I think there it is, like,
Yeah.
ask for a percentage of it, you know, and ask for, you know, a justifiable percentage, and then if the finance committee wants to. You know, negotiate, or they have an internal discussion and they say, well, I think maybe 40 is too high, let's do 35. And then there you have it.
There you have
know?
it, yeah.
Right,
I like it.
me too.
And it's pretty,
What does it go towards now?
just goes back into the
General fund, yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll want to know the impacts, obviously, of, you know, diverting those funds to a different account. But I think it's a really justifiable, you know, a reason to divert the money, and just explaining what we could, you know, what you could do with it as a
Yeah.
committee, and the importance of having access to some funding sometimes.
I almost see the memo having a lot of examples of really cool things that we could be doing and the impacts of those.
Yeah,
You know, like, these are some potential things, like the grants and helping homeowners change over their HVAC systems, and just opportunities like that are huge and make meaningful, kind of like, we could do some really cool stuff with just a little bit of money
Yes,
and then grow it.
And save money.
Yes,
Yes.
and save money and continue
that,
to
the
pay
other
for it.
part of
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
Deb,
yeah.
is not,
We
let's
can't-
not
we
get
can't-
that,
we
let's
can't
not have
save
that
money.
long.
Rosenberg from South Portland, because doesn't she have a budget?
well, she has a department.
Yeah, she's in much larger. I suppose it's not apples to apples.
Maybe goals.
Okay, all right, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, she has a budget. Yeah, it's a little different. Portland and South Portland both have sustainability departments.
Big
with-
time.
Yeah, with department heads and all of that. We have an office. I have a new office. It's very
Hey, you got
exciting.
a new office.
Is it down in the town garage? Weren't you down there?
I used to split my time between town hall and public works. I'm full-time in town hall now, and my office physically moved from one spot to another, and I have an extral window, which is so.
Wow, you get to see the daylight?
We're gonna have an open house down there. So we're almost-
Figure.
Yeah, it's almost done. I think, probably like maybe in the fall, we'll have our little open house.
Yes, our newly renovated and reconfigured planning department and engineering technical services department.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's our next steps here? What would you like from us, Jamie?
Well, next we have, brainstorming ideas that we would pursue with the funding. So I think, as Autumn said, that's going to be really powerful in the memo so that, the council can kind of envision what we're talking about and what opportunities where we want to pursue. So I feel like we should just start, throwing things out there. Obviously, we're recording. I don't know if I'll write them all down. They'll all be captured in our minutes, large or small. So we've talked about more outreach for specific programs that we want to do, the composting pilot, where we have some good lessons learned, because we weren't able to do a lot of good outreach and marketing around that. We talked about grants for homeowners. We can talk a little bit more about what that might look like, what opportunities we want to present to them, what are some priorities that this group has in terms of homeowners. I know South Portland is doing they have an an electric tool lending library now. So they're lending out electric mowers and leaf blowers and weed whackers and things like that to get people used to the idea of maybe going electric instead of gas powered. That's something that we could think about. The library wants to set up an EV or an electric bike lending program, which I think is super cool, and it may be an opportunity for us to support that effort. They are looking into grants for that. Portland and South Portland have rebate programs for electric tools and electric bikes and scooters maybe also now. And then home upgrades. Deb has a lot of experience with home upgrades. Are there opportunities to couple things with existing funding through Efficiency Maine and tax credits and things like that to make it more attractive for some people to invest in some of these upgrades? Sky's the limit at this point. So let's talk about what some of the priorities are.
I think the last one might be a starting point if they're, I'm not educated about what Efficiency Maine's programs are, but are some of the grant, could we mirror some of the Efficiency Maine goals?
The rebates?
Well, that's kind of like what South Portland has done. They have a fund that they leverage and nearly with their contribution and the Efficiency Maine rebates, it almost is, a wash for the homeowner to put in a heat pump. They give that money. I don't know if you might know, is it income based? Or is it any?
I think initially it was any, because they were using ARPA funds and COVID relief funds for that. I'm not sure if moving forward it's income.
If it'd be
or not.
Yeah, and now that Efficiency Maine, I understand, they have to come up with a way in which they're gonna provide rebates for EV bicycles. That got passed in the legislature. With that passed, if I had a couple $1 million, I'd invest in a bike shop. Rent out these and stick it in the downs and say, here. Our site plans require areas, like bike racks on new commercial buildings, which is kind of exciting. So that's certainly something that we should include.
Bike racks and dedicated bike charging, maybe?
Yeah, bike charging or some way in which the town, I don't know, South Portland, who's running that Lend a Bike? Is that a private organization or is
No,
that
it's
through the city?
It's the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at their swap shop at their transfer station.
Right.
Is where you can go and get
And Jen could
Yeah.
probably get us more information on that.
I mean, Easter Trail parking lots,
Yeah.
beach parking lots, like. There's plenty of places where I feel like people would rent. And if it was a town.
Wouldn't it be cool to have certain stations like in Oak Hill and the Downs and these places where somebody could. I mean, look at the sidewalks being built now by the Downs.
And that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I went the other, like, that's where I went.
The
where
beach and
you
Eastern
would ride
Trail.
it, where you wouldn't necessarily be on main roads, because we all know.
So
Just don't
but
set up for that.
we're working towards that
Yes.
also. So the
It-
transportation committee is working on identifying what they're calling bike byways as part of their townwide transportation study, which will identify safe routes, not necessarily direct on roads that you're used to, but safe routes to get from various hubs in Scarborough. And so this might tie in with that, maybe not something that we want to take on right now, but have it in our mind for the future for when the bike byways concept is more developed. So that we can do it in conjunction with with that.
Well,
effort.
what's going on in the downs now to get the link to the eastern trail through the downs, that's like a big indicator to the public that this is starting to happen.
And that connectivity is important.
The other thing is solar on the public safety's canopy there and charger and,
Well, solar wherever solar should be.
Solar everywhere.
yeah.
Solar wherever solar should.
But also the fact that maybe there's a way to encourage replacement vehicles that are appropriate, like the
Yeah,
code shifting over to EVs.
EVs, yeah.
Even the police chief and those kind of cars that don't do but 150 miles a day. Would be great to have them in EV.
Yeah, to kind of offset the price between a
Right.
conventional and
Right.
an EV.
So there's those opportunities.
Well, a budget line item, given that we're now thinking this way, I don't know why we're thinking this way. So I've been asking for years for some sort of process for notifying the residents of what the trash and recycling protocols are. So when houses change hands,
Yeah,
and that just needs to be a budgeted item, that somebody has the funds to have the mailers and send them out every time.
yeah, and I need to circle back with our communications person, because we actually had talked about having like a section on our website that could be updated more easily than a mailer that we might have to have mass printed and
But we
whatnot.
have to have a mailer that actually goes to these folks.
Or
So-
that points them to that section of the website possibly.
But it needs to have some information in it, because people who are moving are overwhelmed by everything else. they're doing.
Yeah, some kind of
Something needs to
resident
land on, and it could cover other sorts of things as well.
voter registration.
Yeah. I love when I haven't moved that often, but when you get like, when you do your change of address and the post office sends you the packet of
Welcome.
coupons. Like, I wonder if this would be a much bigger undertaking, and I have all these great ideas and never the time to make them happen, but if there are like local businesses or something that might put a coupon in there. So that people who are new to the area, you know, in addition to the information about the town, another incentive for people to look through that information.
Yeah.
There are coupons to local businesses so that you can kind of orient yourself around town.
I think you talked to Deb one time about like working with realtors and everything, and maybe Karen Martin with Setco and Realtor Connection and on that like commercial, maybe there's some sort of way to use them for those sort of ideas.
Yeah,
So you're not trying to recreate.
Something Something I found helpful is we produced some videos that we put on our website, and it's how to engage with a contractor to get an energy efficiency project started. And it's a 3-minute video. We could do a funded production of a video that says, this is what you can put in this bucket and this is what you can
Well,
put in that bucket.
Ecoland has that. I mean,
They
those
do.
videos exist, but like when Public Works provides a new trash can for a new construction, inside the trash can is some of those instructions.
yeah,
And if we could just mail that.
yeah.
At one time, we put decals on them, remember?
We did,
We paid, somebody paid.
yeah, equally. But to mail that to
Mhm.
the new residents, because it's just dumb, I can only see 8 houses, but those 8 houses transfer over and over again. And the people who move in don't know how to use their trash cans, and it's not their fault. And it's just weird that we haven't been able to figure out how to tell them
Mhm.
how to use their trash.
What about things like a swap
I
shop?
was just gonna ask. Is there a swap shop and stuff?
There is
No.
not.
Okay, yeah.
And we don't have a transfer station, so that's kind of where it typically
Could be
is
in that new
located.
community center.
Well, can we make an ordinance?
Todd will love that.
I know, I wrote my husband's name down.
Oh, good. Casey can do that. Casey, we need a swap shop.
The other thing that we need to revisit is food waste.
Mhm.
Because that has been significantly restricted.
I feel like this series like brainstorming moment, like you need my big pads, right? So like identify all the problems and I like, cause when I come to these meetings, I'm like, okay, what are all the things sustainability means? Cause sometimes we're just talking about lights or we're just talking about EV chargers or HVAC systems. So maybe start with that and then you have this, all the different things you'd like to touch. Cause you guys, do you deal with, pesticides and landscape at all? You don't know any of
We have the
that,
pest
right?
management
So all
committee.
that's,
Conservation
all that's
Commission.
gone. Okay, so it's really just more about energy and efficiency and recycling garbage, that's.
Well, also, like shoreline support. I mean, we're gonna lose Berwick Road here. And you're having to deal with that through sustainability.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's conservation and sustainability together. I mean, the reason that the roads keep flooding is because we're putting too many greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So we're related.
What I'm trying to get to is like, there's all these really cool ideas, but I'm trying to get you like, and I know you all have goals, like, so goals, like make it a really I can't even say it, methodical, thank you, approach to get to it. And then your money sort of fits in, like you have an education and outreach program, and then you have an implementation program, and then you have like a grant program. And these are the things you want to fund. So it's really very defined and you just can't argue with it when it gets to the council level, right? You're like, I should say no to that. Those are really good things. Maybe if it's in these buckets that are really easy, because this is not my world. I just sort of come in and try to understand. And I think if it was really, really, and all these are really cool, great ideas, but if they're really defined, I think
What if we put together
I don't think you'll
a
put enough.
with the tabs?
maybe.
Like we've done,
it's
and we can start having that as a
just-
living
yeah,
document
like
where we
brainstorm. and-
brainstorm, the problem
Yeah.
and then potential solutions
Yeah,
and, whatever
because
detail we could get into.
like sitting in here, I know why we need outreach for new customers, right? But what problem are you trying to solve? And then what is that? Like, here's the problem, here's an answer, here's how much it costs.
Yeah, what resources?
Making
are
the
you
direct
using to make
correlation
that happen?
between the problem and the solution, I think would really help the.
Yeah.
And then you guys are gonna have.
And then now we have a
much
working
time,
document
so,
too,
yeah, I
in
think
which
it's
we
done.
can have those funds and set priorities. Which one are we gonna tackle?
Yeah,
What?
so I can take the ideas that were thrown out here and start setting that up. You guys can go add more to it. And we'll share the link.
And then it'll be a start of the memo
memo,
to the,
exactly.
to the council. Okay, here's the basic structure of
Yeah, if we had,
the why.
endless money, what would the sustainability committee do? And then since we don't have endless
Time and
money.
energy there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, but the money can buy more time
Yeah.
and energy.
Yeah.
Living proof.
But since we don't have endless money, let's prioritize all of those things that we want to do into manageable chunks.
Okay. So is that good for everybody? Next steps on that?
Yeah.
Excellent. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Jamie.
we have 15 minutes left. We're right on time, actually. We can move on to updates. So Sustainable Scarborough Day. We are getting vendors rolling in, which is great. It was a little scary at our last at our July meeting because we only had a handful signed up. We're almost up to 20 now, which is great. That was kind of our minimum goal. And more people are have said, yes, we're gonna come. They just haven't filled out the paperwork to confirm their participation. So that's great. I'm gonna add Sustainability Committee to that list. So this group needs to be thinking about what you might want to have there for either an activity or information or both. And again, thinking that this is going to be a family focused event. So something that is, multi-generational, some sort of activity or information that would be appropriate for both would be really great. Because kids especially are good at shaming their parents into doing the right thing.
Is Eagle Maine, did they sign up to be there?
They have said that they will be there, but I haven't gotten their paperwork yet. I keep
Okay.
pinging them.
Because I was thinking some sort of recycling information and.
Yeah, they will have, and
But if they're gonna be there, they'll have that.
yeah, I mean, it's not bad to reinforce though,
No,
that information.
What is the date of it?
It's October 1st, so it's a Sunday, but will coincide with the farmer's market. We will be set up at Wentworth School. So the fact that you're asking this question also leads to the fact that, we will begin marketing it to the public, middle to late August. So, a month and a half or so before the event, to get it on.
Are we gonna
on
purchase
radar.
lawn signs?
We're talking about that. I have mixed feelings about the lawn sign idea because it is more waste. So,
King is the
Yeah.
recyclable.
I know. They're not recyclable in the domain,
Can't
so
find
I
anything,
need to
I
find.
keep having meetings, legal may talk about some way to even
Just collect
collect
them.
at certain times of the year.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness, yeah.
yeah,
It's just a tricky place, straight problem.
it is. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, the material is plastic. It should be recycled, but because they have automated sorting machines, it isn't sorted correctly. It's sorted as paper, because they're lightweight and flat. So yeah, so I mean, probably if we worked with them to try to like collect and bundle them, we might be.
That's
able
what
to-
What about a banner then going across 114?
Yeah, I can look into that. I'm not sure what that cost is. We do, like I said, we do have a small budget.
It's pretty similar to what, don't you advertise Family Fest with one of those banners?
Yeah,
That'll be coming up here pretty soon.
yeah, I mean, I would love, this is our first one, so I don't know if we can say it's going to be like the first Sunday in October. every
Right,
day,
yeah.
You know,
You
so,
just say the first Sunday in October,
right,
and then if we do it again,
And the date changes, then we could change the vinyl letters on the banner.
and it might make sense, I don't know what units are, but if you were to even get 10 of those yard signs.
Yeah.
To put in a couple of these.
Yeah.
spots, not trying to blanket the town.
yes,
But-
yeah, put them around like Oak
Yeah.
Hill and,
And then, okay, and there will be a series of presentations. and
yes,
Talks.
yeah, Deb's giving a talk about the upgrades that she did at her house. that
And you
paid for
confirmed
themselves.
with
Efficiency main.
Neil.
Yes, so
Okay.
he actually sent in his stuff yesterday.
Awesome.
So, yeah, there was some question because you guys are really short staffed right now, whether or not they would be able to.
Flat out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you guys have any like swag to give away? Like, is there stuff?
so, and that's the other thing is the stuff.
I know people love the kids love stuff.
Yeah,
Candy.
people love
Yeah.
stuff. And again,
it's difficult to-
We used to,
Right.
I used to try to get light bulbs and stuff like that, but now
Like, is there something?
LED,
Something
that's what
interesting,
you
right?
buy for
Like you got the
school.
reusable shopping bags.
yeah, we have a bunch of reusable shopping bags actually, that we can, that say sustainable Scarborough on
Why
them.
don't we set up a mini swap?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Will you take that on?
I mean.
Are you volunteering?
This is not talking about time and energy. Yes, very.
Well, then we need to have a way to deal with
The afterwards, yeah. So,
I love
Something
that
to think
idea.
about though.
Yeah. I mean, yes, but.
Yes, but
Yeah.
well stated.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that, I love that idea because we're so close. I don't know that we can pull it off, but it's something to put on the,
Sure.
on the list for next time around. And maybe that's something that we can just think about, like you said, not necessarily at the community center, but is there space and resources for us to maintain a swap shop?
What is a swap shop?
Basically, someone has something that they don't want, they bring it to the swap shop and leave it there, and then if someone might need that, they take it with them, but.
Perfectly functioning blender, but I
Yeah.
just don't need it in my kitchen.
And I don't wanna,
that the side of the road.
and I don't wanna deal with like.
We used to do that.
We
If you-
did.
Kennebuck is amazing.
do,
The
I mean-
it's always like the
Great.
good stuff. It's
Yeah.
not fair. It's like, I don't want these stools anymore.
Right, I mean, and we have a very robust buy nothing page in
Yeah,
Scarborough, and
yeah.
so people, you know.
But
our
it's the
restaurants
coordination of
but
like, I need to be
Right,
available when that
meeting,
person's
yeah,
available, but
yeah.
if there's just
It
a
would be
central
nice to
place.
just have a place.
Habitat for Humanity in certain areas has these buildings that you bring, you know,
We have
instead of
those, we have-
renovation and you take
Yeah,
a
we
window
have
out,
the
you put it in
Kennebuck
a.
This
Like
is
animals.
so specific. Do we have anybody that recycles shoes or like sneakers?
Actually, there are a lot of
Good
fun.
bill.
I mean, Maine needs
Well-
to take sneakers.
Well, so the reason I ask is because occasionally when we run road races, they'll have like a bin that, you know, is
Mhm.
specifically for recycling, and
Yeah.
I don't know if every family is like this, but I literally have like 10 pairs of shoes at all time that need to go, and I don't put them in the I won't put them in the garbage, like, and so.
But
I
they're
don't know
probably
if
not
there's-
like donation, they're probably
Right,
not like
they're
good deal,
now.
right? You're like,
Now,
I
but I
don't even
know,
accept a
I guess
burn.
it's one of those things, like, I know there is a group that recycles sneakers, and so since I know that that exists, I won't put them in the garbage, but I don't know how to
what about
always find where people recycle
maybe
their
that,
sneakers.
instead of like a physical swap shop, maybe there's an online like resource page that you could start
And could we
with.
use the
Yeah, maybe.
sustainable day?
We burn some of that stuff and we make electricity with it.
Do you want me to put my sneakers in the, in the bin?
Well-
I don't know.
Ecomane has an app that helps people figure out
Yeah.
where they're supposed to put.
The Recyclopedia.
Oh, recyclopedia.
Encyclopedia, yeah, so it's, if you go to ecomaine.org/101, it's online, or there's an app that you can download on your phone. And there's information on, yeah. I know, like, there, you can get money for shoes. I know, like, there are groups that do fundraisers of collecting shoes, so I don't know. Let's fund our sustainability.
Let's have a clink.
That's what I'm saying, like that's so specific and it's so niche, but that is
No, but we
literally
want-
something I'm actively
that should
looking
be,
for as a place of
like,
call.
An example of values being in Scarborough.
Yeah.
When you have something, don't put it in trash,
Right.
or don't purchase it if you don't need it. Yeah.
I have a house in Cape Elizabeth too, and Cape Elizabeth has a swap shop.
Oh, I go
Yes.
all the time.
And I go all the time.
I know,
And
you're not allowed
but
to
they
post them.
also have a rack, you've seen it on the
Yes.
side that has shoes. And I've gotten boat shoes and stuff for my
Sure.
granddaughters and yeah,
Just all in the name of limiting our
Right,
consumption.
don't
Yeah.
buy.
yeah.
To that point, putting together a shop local guide, does that exist?
Yeah.
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 That exists.
I said, was that.
And it's run quite a bit in the leader and
Well, just from the town hall for Scarborough, just.
Just for, yeah, there is a
Yeah,
Scarborough
okay.
Buy Local group,
Yeah.
and Sedco does coordinate,
Okay.
And they
so
have-
Sedco is
And they
Scarborough
every
Economic
now
Development.
and then they have a booklet that they send out that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But maybe have it, like, looking into a shoe donation, maybe that's something that the sustainability committee can man at the event, if we do have like a shoe donation, shoe collection, thing, and people bring their shoes to Sustainable Scarborough Day.
We'd have to advertise that.
Yeah,
In our.
Yep.
So that's something to bring to the committee.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I know, like, clothing donations also is a big, someone was asking, oh, will you, I want recycled, fabric. Will the town start a fabric collection? I'm like, we don't have.
Yeah, I mean,
we
there's,
don't have the
there's,
resources.
and that is like, so that's like starting in like Brooklyn and you're, I think that's gonna trickle down
Yeah,
over the
What's
next 10
that?
years.
Crazy, is it, or where they get the office supplies that you,
oh, yeah,
roofs,
yeah.
recyclable, yeah,
Yeah,
something similar to that. I
Yeah.
mean, but that's just basic,
yeah,
some school supplies.
yeah,
right?
well, or office supplies,
yeah.
yeah, any of that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just, the barrier to get it from point A to point B,
Yeah.
we're all so busy. And so, that's over in Portland, so thinking of remembering to put the stuff in my car and then remembering to stop when I'm, in that area and things like that.
But I mean, this conversation speaks to the need
Yeah.
for more regular education.
Yeah.
More regular information.
Yeah.
More regular. That's just.
All right,
All right, so great, all good ideas that we'll discuss with the committee, and I can do a quick search for like about shoe donations and see what goes into that. If this group is willing to kind of be the stewards of that at the event, that would be great.
And if shoes isn't the right thing,
Yeah.
there's a different item.
Or maybe
Sure.
just clothing in
What
general.
about, like, what do you guys do with these when they're old? My kids have so many water bottles and
They can be
Goodwill doesn't
recycled.
take out.
They
You
can
just
go in
put
your
them in
recycling
recycle,
bin,
even the metal ones.
especially the metal ones.
Cool.
And also, if you go with if your trash goes to Ecomaine, whether the metal is in the recycling bin or not, it will be recycled. Because
Okay.
they're
They'll
able
kick
to
it.
remove it.
Okay,
They're
that's
able to
good.
remove
I
it
just have them
from-
in the garage now. buckets.
But yeah, take the plastic caps off and stuff, but metal water bottles can go in the recycling bin.
And the plastic ones go?
Yeah, as long as they're number like 1
Okay,
through,
okay.
as long as there's a symbol on it.
Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha.
What's the next update?
Town council.
What do you guys want to know? Yeah, I mean, it's summer, so we met once in July, did like a 500 item agenda.
That was long.
It was long. We've got, we have a single action item agenda for August 2nd to put forth an LOI with the Downs for the school land. And so that single action will be to authorize Tom to enter into an agreement if our other partner is, amicable to what we put forth. And then one meeting in August, and that agenda is getting longer and longer by the minute, I'm sure.
Is it the September meeting that you will decide to put the language for the referendum?
No, that will be our August 16th
In your
meeting.
August meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, so whether or not the school goes to referendum, that decision will be made on August 16th.
Right.
Yeah.
Planning board?
We had a light agenda, kind of. The ordinances are coming through like crazy,
Yeah.
which is great, because it's the movement from the comprehensive plan, which is the roadmap. So we're actually following what we said we're doing, which is, a novel concept sometimes. Rotary going in, a potential,
Like a roundabout rotary?
Roundabout,
roundabout.
Downs and Scar.
Oh, and the
Yeah,
Downs.
yeah. Brewery potentially
At the Downs.
at the
yeah.
Downs,
In addition to the brewery that's already been announced, or?
no,
Yeah.
that's
That's a different one. So Allagash is coming before planning board next time.
next
Our
time.
next meeting, and then we have a pretty loud agenda that we're sort of out of our summer. We get really, really busy in the spring, which is really good because we have a lot of other.
Because they want to get stuff going.
Yeah, yeah, and then we kind of trickle off, so we're at the end of that, I think.
But,
Yeah, we have, the MEVS solar farm is coming back, that was almost done.
almost done.
We are still talking about a hotel at, Muzzy Road.
Muzzy Road.
That one has some
That's
stormwater.
some challenges with the stormwater that, quite frankly, it may not be the right place for this. So I don't know.
Hmm.
What about overbuilding for hotels?
Yeah, that's part of it too. That's something we're looking at in other ordinances and other groups is impervious cover and landscaping and open space.
And I think transportation is gonna try to look at parking.
They're gonna give it a little look over, yeah,
Yeah.
and see if they can help, because that's going through long range planning, so.
And building designs are still, the building design standards are still being worked through.
We're
Which
trying
is,
to wrap up landscaping. Landscaping we got bogged down a little bit with it.
all right, at long range plan.
And
Okay.
we're almost done with that one.
So that will first come through town council, anything, and then come to planning
It'll come to planning
department,
board, yes.
planning board. Okay.
Is there any update on the traffic light?
There's a lot of press on that recently, huh?
Yeah.
Uh,
So-
Adaptive.
It'll
traffic.
only be adaptive at
Hotel light
hotel.
is Still trying.
They're still working through some bugs, yeah, so I believe that they're on and they're calibrating and I. think
Fully
they're-
online, still learning,
Still
is what we were told at council.
I think it takes a bit for it to learn that.
Is transportation or anybody working on, Gorham Road outlet? Like on the way to Gorham?
So on the other side of the turnpike, is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about? So that will be part of the townwide transportation study, looking at that. In what context do you mean, is anyone?
I
looking
just
at it?
haven't been able to drive through there at hockey time in a long time. Like, yeah, we got totally stuck there yesterday.
Yeah,
Just getting, just the traffic.
Yeah, it used to be bad up in Gorham, and those traffic circles have cleared that up. And now it's bugged down.
I think that's probably part of the larger conversation about the Gorham connector.
Yeah, that is,
Is whether or not the connector will divert some of the traffic that's currently using 114. Off from 114.
Yeah.
So, oh, and they're, as part of the Downs offsite improvements, I think that they are required to do some work there. Yeah, on 114. I think eventually they're putting adaptive signals
They are.
out.
Are we
that
talking about where
intersection.
the aroma chose
Yeah,
and all that? Yeah, that's part of the TMP.
yeah,
Yeah. But you can see the sidewalks starting to go in at the entrance of the Downs, which is all part of that
Mhm.
TMP that they receive. So those off-site mitigations are happening.
So, and, on the town website, and I can send the link out to this if people are interested, there is a map showing kind of current and planned future road projects, either, town road projects, private projects that developers are required to do, or state projects with DOT and Maine Turnpike Authority. That kind of has kind of the areas of town where those are planned, and a brief summary of what will happen there and who to contact for more information. So I can send that out.
So what's the status of the repaving out on 114 here?
Almost done.
Is it done yet? Maybe, please?
Warm is getting
I
close.
avoid that, I don't know.
Yeah, Ford Road is getting really close. The final paving is done and now they're doing the curbs and sidewalks.
Okay.
And so significant closures for the next 2 weeks as they get that curbing and sidewalk in. But like the end is in sight on that project. Was the last update that we got at council.
Mhm.
That's it.
And yeah, great. And then lastly is Conservation Commission. They are working on exploring ordinance updates. Working with Autumn and the Planning Department to increase buffer standards to protect our water
The
resources,
water.
including wetlands in addition to streams, rivers, things like that. And then also starting in soon, looking at a proposed low impact development ordinance, which has the potential to totally change how developers approach a site in Scarborough. Scarborough has to do this ordinance. It needs to be adopted by July 1, 2024. And there are 13 other communities in this region that are required to do the same. It's a state mandate through our stormwater permit. So we're not alone, but it is going to change things a lot in terms of development. So, I mean, soon,
Busy.
yes. Great. And our next meeting is in August. August 23rd.
Everybody all right with meeting in August? I think we probably should not take it. Last year, I think we took August off
Yeah.
in the summer.
There's a lot
But
happening.
there's a lot happening, so I think keeping our regimen going is the right approach. All right. Motion to adjourn?
Standing.
All right, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Autumn.